we have this kind of like, we need to eat practices just because they're there, and regardless of what made it happen. It takes time, it takes effort. You should actually focus on why you're going to be successful there, not just because you're going to push marketing and just force it in, but because you believe that you got a doctor there who believes in the community, is a part of it. That whole process. None of this, again, is easy, but it takes time. And we're willing to say, if that means we grow at a slower rate and we're not trying to jump to 20 practices or anything like that, we know that way we can at least keep an eye on the comprehensive and quality care.
You're busy, you've got a decent practice, but nobody wants to be decent. You want to be great, and you want to have a great practice. So how did the most productive, profitable dentist in the nation balance real life, work, and profits, and somehow make it all seem fun? Well, it comes down to simple, everyday practices. So grab a lunch, join us as we chat with top clinicians and influencers to discover their formula for uncommon success. Are you ready? Then it's time to explore everyday practices.
Hey everyone, Dr. Chad Johnson here. Thank you for joining us today as we continue our conversation with Dr. Dwight Peccora.
And for the listeners, they just got done listening to the last episode, and here we are in the next week talking about the next
community. So we, in episode 1, just heard Dwight talk about mastering as a unicorn, multiple locations, empowering the team, delegating leaders within the team, keeping a minority shareholder. It came out really fast, Dwight, and it's a huge testament to success. Knowing where I sit, I'm like, that is not easy to achieve. And especially having been in charge of our team, which is about the same size. I think you have how many team members? 40 or so? 40?
We're at 45 now.
45. And to hold the culture, hands down to you, I bow down. That is not easy to do. And you have multiple locations on top of it. So I'm really genuinely curious, Dwight, how do you involve your community? What unique things do you do to kind of share the love with especially as you're going into new communities, and how do you pull your team along with that? How do you get them on board?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things for us is we're blessed that we're a strong brand in our community. That's a relatively beautiful thing that comes from feeding back and forth off of the community and what we've done for them. While at the same time, I like to say that we may have a lot of options that come up to us. We've got doctors that may be struggling, especially after COVID. Hey, are you interested in buying this practice, going back and forth? And the vast majority of the time, the answer is no, because we have to see the alignment. And we like to say we are going to take on a practice that we can not take on. Meaning it is so evident, so obvious. Sure, we have some background calculations on where market geofencing we should be to serve our community, where there's an area. And when we say underserved, it's hard for me to say that in a world where there truly are truly underserved areas. For us, it's a matter of areas that do not have access to comprehensive care. First off, for the community, not just the fact that, oh, they've got all these specialists spread all over and they're driving in and out, but more importantly, just having a dentist that they know that they can have access to, that where the dentist and the team lives in the community that they live, and that they're a part of that. And also building a space where we know that our team does live. We believe that we've been recruiting and developing. We tend to have a little percentage of excess people on the team because we prep ourselves for that next step. But the way we do take on other locations is our leadership team, our hygiene, our admin from the front desk, clinical, every portion of the practice goes to that office if we're acquiring an office and not doing a de novo, and they will swap out. So I'll go and practice there, and I'll see patients there, and I'll get to know it. And the hygienist will swap with that hygienist, and that hygienist from that existing practice will come practice here at our headquarters location, get to feed off of our culture, and we'll look at what's going on and how they do what they need to do. We do the same thing with the front desk. We do it top to bottom. Even our lab team, so our director of our lab, they're on the leadership team. She'll go out. She's a ceramist, right? She loves getting to go out there, and she goes and she looks at the work and she sees what's going on. We get a very in-depth view of what's going on, what are going to need more resources to develop that practice, and what areas we could be a blessing for, right? If that doctor is staying, or if that doctor is not staying and we're just taking on a whole new office. I think that it's about investing the time and knowing that these are not easy decisions, especially when you've put so much onus on the team. If I just up and say, hey, I want another location, I'd throw it in. If they're the ones, the leadership team, of people on the team are the ones who make the decision whether we take on the practice or not, because they clearly see the vision of where we're headed. And so we're very involved with the Chamber of Commerce. We're very involved with all local groups. It's not abnormal for us to be sitting on the development boards or being involved in different things that allow us to see that. But I think the most important thing is to just passionately know your community and know that there's a purpose to serve, right? At the same time, every portion has to win. You can't run a business off of nothing. So you want to build a business model that says, hey, you know what, we can be there, we can be fruitful, and we can provide care at a level that they're not currently receiving or not available to them. We also tend to kind of figure out what areas of zip codes that are really far away from some of our main locations. That's actually why we built the Richmond location. We had a huge number of patients driving an hour to an hour and a half from a certain portion of the county coming out to us. So we placed the Richmond location between us and them to make sure that they had better access to it and then push resources that way. So it's the way many business in other industries grow and develop. We have this kind of like, we need to eat practices just because they're there, and regardless of what made them happen. It takes time, it takes effort. You should actually focus on why you're going to be successful there, not just because you're going to push marketing and just force it in, but because you believe that you got a doctor there who believes in the community, is a part of it, that whole process. None of this, again, is easy, but it takes time. And we're willing to say, if that means we grow at a slower rate and we're not trying to jump to 20 practices or anything like that, we know that way we can at least keep an eye on the comprehensive and quality care, and kind of build that culture right around the community. So that's the hope. And that's so far it's gone well, with things that have been hard.
Yeah. I don't look at your practice thinking, yeah, they just need to work on not growing at such a slow rate.
The truth is sometimes we have gotten to the point where I'm uncomfortable with some of those rates of growth. When we moved into this other location, we moved, and we were getting like 50 new patients, and now we're getting like 180 new patients a month in this practice. And so just a lateral move, to being more readily visible, readily available. Those are the things that you realize other industries do all the time. And they say, why would I put on the corner? Why would I be on the right next to the main street? Why would you do all those things? The truth is other businesses know what they're doing. If you want to make yourself readily visible to the community, do it. Build a nice building, build nice access to the community you serve. And
right.
So we've enjoyed that.
Yeah, Dwight, it's a side note, but like I had bought a 4-acre property on the corner of where growth was happening. Yeah. And we got into, I was on the school board, and it got into an issue with the city council. They actually went to court against each other, and it went all the way to the state Supreme Court.
Oh, I have not heard this story. This is saucy.
Oh yeah. And yeah, you pay me enough, I'll name names, but so the problem then came about. I was going to put my office on the corner up here, and they decided, and I don't know if this is me being paranoid or if this was just going to happen, but they put a median in the middle of the street to block the incoming traffic into that property. And I swear it's because of where I landed on, the political lines of it. I ended up just selling the property just because it wasn't accessible so far as the way that when I first bought it versus what it could have been versus what it turned out to be. And so I totally dumped it, which is really too bad because I still like that corner. But if people weren't able to access it, it just, right. Yeah. So it's just too bad.
Things matter, and that's hard too, because that is our world. I mean, it is so counterpolarized all over right now, and you don't have as much control as you thought you might have as an entrepreneur. But that's why sometimes you just gotta hold back and just kind of be like, oh, we're gonna take things a little slower and be confident in our steps, even though we know it's gonna be 3 steps forward and 2 back sometimes.
Right. Hey, another tangent then. Have you ever looked at outsourcing to Cordova?
So there is some discussion about creating some support. So we've run out of some room. We've been in this in our headquarters location now for 5 months, 6 months, and we really increased the size, but we're already maxed out. We've been very blessed to have a lot of access to a lot of growth as of recent, even with COVID. And so one of the things that we wanted was to have full call centers and full supports for insurance verification, things like that. So we have looked into some of those outsources, even out of South America, because there's incredible groups of people that are just amazingly educated. They just want access to supportive enterprises options, and so we've been reaching out as of recent to go down that direction in hopes that we can find some more support for ourselves as well.
Well, I think about my buddy that I've known since preschool that we work out together and stuff like that. His sister is down in Lima, Peru, and he said the average annual income there, I think, was, I don't remember if it was 800 a year or it was something ridiculously low, you know, and then of course, you know, the purchases there aren't all that expensive either. But whatever he told me, I was just shocked, and he was just like, and I've got two of my sister's friends down there that are looking for jobs, you know, in the field that he's in, and that they can do it remotely. And he's just like, man, how can I not, you know? And that's what's tough about American industry, where like you being a Texan, you hear this all the time, where it's like, you know, let's keep American jobs and stuff like, and that's great. I mean, I totally believe in that, but then there's, you know, the nice side of globalism too. And the just like J.W. Oliver, you know, looking at helping with, you know, Africa and stuff like that, giving them legitimate jobs, and not in the goal of stealing it away from Americans per se, but in giving us the opportunity to have the personal relationship side dealt with in person, that we can, you know, maximize what we can do best. And that they can take care of some of the stuff that you can do on telephone, so that way they can feed their families too.
I think that's very empowering. So all our locations outside of our headquartered location are hyper-focused on having patient-facing team members only, on purpose, because all that other stuff. So even when you walk to the front desk here, there's no phones at the front desk. They're hyper-focused on only communicating to the people that are there.
Oh no, that's cool.
I was going to say tip. Check.
Because I think it's critically important that if possible, and that's one of the reasons we scale, is that they're hyper focused on the people that are there, that what's going on. So if somebody comes up, it's not, wait 1 second, I'm on the phone type scenario.
Mm-hmm.
It's, hey, I'm here for you. What do you need? And then it allows the cycle to go along. And I agree with you. The outsource option truly is that not only are there people in the rest of the world that want to get incredible jobs and support American enterprises and companies, there are also incredible Americans who want to get to focus on growing their own personal professional lives. And sometimes they get stuck on a call center or get stuck doing this and that, and they don't get any of this patient interaction. They don't get any of this development. And we tend to have, you know, a pipeline. You can come in as a sterile tech and then support in the lab, and then continue to do a hygiene support, and then slowly but surely you can become an assistant. How many of them have then gone to be a hygienist, do all these other things? Some of them start at the front and they're answering phones, you know, in the call center and doing things, but they have a growth opportunity. And I think that's critically important for people to understand that usually outsource just creates opportunities for others. Many times it's jobs that other people, we don't always necessarily want to have, but it takes time to learn and grow. And if you didn't get the opportunity to be raised in a household where there was readily available education or things like that, or you got all the money to be able to do, by the way, super expensive education in the United States, can be part of the reason why we've got a lot of people who aren't able to use that education. So they need pipelines within small business to be able to access other jobs. And sometimes we have them stuck answering 350 calls a day, you know, in our call center, the way we manage. Guess what? There's no training, development, no discussion. Just get there, pick up the phone and do it. Removing some of those tactical things gives them the chance to think more strategically about their professional and personal lives. And
for sure. One of the ways that you and I can place dental implants even is because we have hygienists and we don't have to clean people's teeth. So that there's a case in point where it's just like we've insourced, or, you know, whatever, we've insourced the idea that I don't need to do everything to be the dentist. I can hire a hygienist. And then in some states like Iowa, not in Texas, I'm not rubbing it in, but you know, the hygienist can use laser, or that they can anesthetize and stuff like that. And so this whole debate too, dentists are saying, man, do we want do we want an expanded function assistant to be able to do, level 1 and level 2 and level 3, whatever, all the stuff or do we want a mid-level provider of a hygiene dentist kind of stuff? And at first the turf war side goes, well, I don't like that. And it's like, yeah, but guys, if you can, we've already done that plenty. And I don't think it's necessarily a problem to, evaluate it and say, we don't have to do it the way we did it 100 years ago. Why are you scraping teeth?
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. And unfortunately, and I think you and I are very similar in this sense, and I will state it as I state it. If you build a team that you're willing to support and care for, and you believe that they, regardless of where they go in life, they should leave you better than they came, then you would never be on that other side of just holding back, right? And meaning those are usually doctors, and I'll call out our industry or our whole profession very easily, is the fact, because I'm very outspoken about this, is that usually it's when we don't want to grow anymore, we keep others from growing. And so if we allow others to grow, it gives us the opportunity to grow ourselves. And in a little bit of time that I'm not doing a cleaning or doing anesthetizing, hygiene, or whatever it is, gives me a chance to take care of patients who need it. And unfortunately, there are a lot of practices, hey, I can't get in. There's this problem. A lot of it's bottlenecking based on pride, or, hey, I'm done learning. I can make a good living this way. Really, the truth is there are others who can also make a good living based on being a part of your team. Just allow access to care in that model. And we won't have government involvement and all types of things and access to care problems if we allow our teams to grow and provide care for those who need it.
Whoa. I forget that we mostly talk to productive dentists, Chad.
Yeah.
Meaning, I mean, I'm really blessed. We get to talk to dentists that are really passionate about learning. They're passionate about constantly growing. You did say something, Dwight, that stood out to me in the previous episode, and you talked about, you said everyone on the team needs a coach individually. Yeah. And I've heard that in different sentiments, but not as directly. And I know at PDA, we always believe a healthy business leads to a healthy team, which leads to healthy patients, which ultimately is, a healthy community. So when I hear you talking about all the different kind of octopus tentacles that you have in the business, in the community, in the multiple locations, I mean, I picture you working like 100 hours a week at least. So how do you take care of your health? I have two kings of efficiency. I can tell without telling that I have two men with very efficient mindsets. How do you do it?
So at my core, I am a systems and processes type of guy. I passionately believe. So if you have anybody else out here who knows me at all, they're like, oh yeah, that's the Google Drive guy who has live Google charts on absolutely everything.
Love
and
the Google Drive.
I have a system and different. Honestly, this comes from a lot of other industries outside of dentistry, right? A lot of people they're just skirting by and trying to do the best they can. But I do believe in organizing systems and processes and holding lateral pressure. And so what I mean by lateral pressure are things that, if you learn from guys like Alex Sharfin, and we've talked about in other groups, the biggest thing is to create an environment where there's a very visible process to how we do what we do every day to grow and scale each department, each person, and go from there. And so we build, we have what tends to be called a waterfall of our annual plan. It goes down to quarterlies, it goes down to monthlies, and I'm getting a phone call, sorry about that. And it goes down to a sense of weeklies. And we create this weekly commitment process where I used to have like 20 meetings a week, like every dentist who thinks they need to have one with every department and every new thing that comes up in every piece of drama. And when we built a leadership team, like the one I've discussed in the past with liaisons for each individual department in each location, we will all get on one call on Monday morning to start our day from 8 to 9, and everybody who's in different locations on a Zoom call. It's not a ton of people. It's just those communicators, those liaisons to their own departments, and they each have commitments from the previous week of things that are going on, and we check them off. And at the very top, it has a percentage that calculates how much they've been able to get done in the last week, and they talk about the things that they have left to do. And if there's still left to do, we move them on to this current week, and we work on those. And we see that somebody's struggling, meaning under 80% of their commitments are tackled, whether it's a hygienist who's establishing new contact for toothbrushes, like Chad was saying, or different things like that. It really comes down to that all being documented and moving right along. Ironically, I document this so strategically and focused that we had a banker come in and they were asking, we're looking at some investments for a new building and things to that degree. And they said, well, we saw that you grew one office 33% last year, and then the big office, you grew at 22%. We want to understand why. And I grabbed that document on Google and I sent it to them for the whole last 2 years, and they're going through week. And I was like, and they're like, what is this? I was like, that's everything we did every single week for every person who's a leader in the company and what they got done. And they attached everything, what got completed. I was like, every single week for the last year, like, they're like, okay, I think we can partner up and invest, because it's obvious if you've got a process and a system, you can clearly see when your team's going to start struggling. They show early signs of not being able to complete tasks, being able to get things done, or when they're struggling with their team, all of a sudden their tasks go away and they're hyper focused on, I've got to spend some time with my team. We're struggling, we're not communicating well, or there's a patient problem that keeps coming up recurringly and there's something that's falling through the cracks. They're communicating, they're building it. So I went from having all those meetings to having 1 hour a week, focusing on that. I do a partnership meeting once a month to keep my partners abreast of kind of what's going on and different things to that degree. But other than that, it's actually not terribly complicated when you allow your team to lead.
So what operating system do you use? I mean, it sounds like it's modified, but I mean, are you EOS or like 4DX, like, yeah, or have you even do you even know what that is? Like, and you've just made your own? I mean, like, how does?
So I've just taken Google Documents, regular Google Documents on Google Drive, and I've taken it to the nth degree and I've customized it. All our KPIs are structured there because it's a live document and my whole team has access to it. And we just manage it that way. The truth is if it's good enough for Google to run their operations, it is good enough for my dental practice. And if I sat here and showed you all the stuff, you'd probably be like, how did you do all this? And the truth is I don't. I built the templates. I put in all the formulas. You categorize everything in a way that allows people to kind of be prepared. And if they just put a yes, I did this in the box, and they attach their attachment of the completed document, it shows, hey, I got that done. And you just kind of move right along. It is the method by which I think Alex Sharfin would call that a cadence, right? The beginning to next. This is our cadence. We stay routine. And obviously COVID threw it all off, but we came right back and we continued. We did what we needed to do. And so I think that's the beauty of it, is there was a process to that matter of how we did things, and systems and processes keep you going. They really, really do.
You were going to get emails requesting access to that. You know that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Happy to help out in any possible way. I do think that's why I've gotten to where I've gotten, is people have shared their knowledge and never made me reinvent the wheel. And so I'm happy to share whatever we've done.
Whew. This has been my favorite. I say that almost every episode, but this really has been my favorite. You've shared so much with us, Dwight. Thank you.
Happy to help. Absolutely. Man, I will tell you, this year has taught us all a lot, and I'm more thankful than ever to, maybe this is a good timing for the talk, because we've all been able to reflect a lot on our boundaries and our quality of life and how we've gotten to slow down. And I think that's great for our society, is to slow down a little bit, especially as entrepreneurs. We can't turn it off, right? It's really, really difficult. And that's one of the hardest things. And I think the pandemic actually helped us a lot in that sense. As hard as it was for the whole world, we have to focus on some of that positivity. And I think that being able to turn it off just a little bit, or at least slow down a little, I think we're going to get a better result. You may not get the quantity that society wanted before, the number of practices and the number of all the craziness that happened, but we'll get better quality out of all of it. So yeah, thanks for having me on today. This is super fun. I enjoyed it tremendously.
Bring your lunch or take us to the gym again next week to improve your everyday practices. Also, subscribe on iTunes, follow us on social media, and sign up for our email list. Now get out there and win with everyday practices.